moving to the non-Muslim clients that we have. I know there's a DIFC will that can be executed for them, and they have all the flexibility that they need in that. Can you please elaborate on that?
It's the benefit of going with the DIFC as a non-Muslim because they're quite rigorous in their processes. Whereas if you go with the Abu Dhabi Judicial Department or even the Dubai Court's notary will for non-Muslims, then you are obviously submitting to the onshore courts and the Arabic language as a
primary
language.
Again, goes back to the point that your will and everything has to be structured very, very clearly so that you do not face unnecessary downtime. Moving to the non-Muslim clients that we have. I know there's a DIFC will that can be executed for them, and they have all the flexibility that they need in that. Can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I mean, look, the DIFC bill is for non-Muslims only. It started in 2015, and it's done really well since then because it's brought a lot of investors and confidence and certainty for families. And it's obviously had a lot of probate. Probate is a process of proving a will upon a person's death. So they've seen significant case volume, tried and tested, and
So like somebody challenges this, for example, if I have an expat of French origin and he registers in DIFC, and then can that be challenged in the French court because basically he's a French national? It will not be.
Well, if we're looking at a hypothetical scenario,
Just
without looking at the details, it would struggle to be challenged.
Because
to be challenged.
That was registered and executed here.
Well, that's the benefit of going with the DIFC as a non-Muslim because they're quite rigorous in their processes and they want to weed out any potential challenges at a later date. So they're quite good at that. And obviously, I would struggle to see, unless there's something that I'm not aware of, something completely out of the blue. The vast majority of the probates in the DIFC go through quite smoothly, from my understanding.
Quite understandable.
And it's actually it's quite transparent. You can go on the DIFC court's website. There's a probate section. You can see the list of everyone, all the probate. You can see all the rules. So that's DIFC was one of the early registries here for non-Muslims, dedicated since 2015, as I mentioned. And that is definitely a very useful offering. Look, I mean, clients often come to me and ask, what's the difference and what should I do? And I'm like, well,
can a non-Muslim go to ADJD as well?
Yeah. Non-Muslim can go to ADJD and they can also go to the DIFC. The only restriction is Muslims can only go
to ADJD.
To ADJD, as I mentioned.
Because
and the point that I would make is that it's really important that you are a non-Muslim and you've never been a Muslim, because that goes contrary to UAE public policy. And clients will often come and ask, which registry should I go to? And there isn't a right answer from our perspective, because each family, each case, each family unit is different.
That's what we said, because
yeah, but
exactly
your budget requirements. If you want the common law with the DIFC, and you want the English language as the official language for your family members, then that is really something that you
need to explore.
That you need to explore, and it comes with a higher cost because it has a rigorous process. Whereas if you go with the Abu Dhabi Judicial Department or even the Dubai Court's notary will for non-Muslims, then you are obviously submitting to the onshore courts and the Arabic language as a
primary
language, official language. So that's really just up to the family members what they want to do. Many ultra high net worth individuals would come in and they don't want to deal with anything except the DIFC because that's where their comfort zone is. Yeah.
So what is the legal process of administering the estate of a deceased person?
Yeah, so what happens in case of death, assuming you have a will, the key documents basically is a death certificate, which is proof of death, right? And then you combine that with the will, which is duly registered, notarized, as a declaration of the wishes, and along with those two documents, and obviously there's a whole litany of documents as well, identification documents, etc., and so forth. But these are the two main documents that allow you to open an inheritance file and start the probate process with any of the courts.
So what happens to the joint accounts in terms of non-Muslims?
Yeah, so that's something that is an important awareness point for everyone. The local regulation on joint bank accounts here in the UAE is that a joint account has to be frozen in case of death of any of the joint account holders. And that can be quite a challenge for an expat family living here with one breadwinner, and you've got one joint account, and then obviously something unfortunately has happened to the breadwinner, and everybody's locked out of the family's resources or funds. So it's really quite important to understand.
But its joint accounts are of two types. Correct me if I'm wrong. One is that both of them, for example, for withdrawals, both of them have to sign, or there's either or. So
yeah, so you're talking about a company corporate bank account,
or personal bank accounts
with a bank mandate.
Personal bank accounts.
A personal bank account, you don't have a distinction as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
And you can obviously speak to your banker and they can clarify this to you. But the law, as we understand it, is pretty clear, where any joint personal accounts held by a husband and wife, or let's say two friends or two brothers, those have to be blocked in case of death of any account holder.
Okay.
You might even, I don't know if that's something that the banks offer here, because they obviously want to give a joint account to family members.
Exactly.
So any death within that joint structure would block everyone out of the account.
Oh. So this again goes back to the point that your will and everything has to be structured very, very clearly so that you do not face unnecessary downtimes for those bank accounts and everything else and the assets. One more thing. Is there any inheritance tax in UAE, and how does that apply?
Fortunately for us, there is no inheritance tax.
Because in a lot of countries there is inheritance tax.
And death taxes as well, as they say.
Yes.
You have to pay taxes upon death. We don't have that here, fortunately. We do have other taxes, but not this so far.
Not these
fortunately
ones.
For us, and I think that that's the way it's going to remain for the foreseeable future.